They told me it was going to be paradise. Now, is that a phrase that is overused and over amplified when you watch videos, read articles, see the postcard, check out the brochure when thinking about making a move or even just a visit to the Philippines? Or better yet, are you going to live like a king? These are a couple of things I want to address in this video, and the genesis for it, I think, will surprise you. I moved to the Philippines in 2017. I had a very, very unique opportunity, situation, experience prior to moving out about a year before. I was in an industry where I had the opportunity to meet and spend quality time with a lot of people from all walks of life. And during my last year in America, in the States, I encountered three Filipino couples, middle aged, married, and they were all OFWs. OFW, for those that may not know, is an overseas foreign worker. They had pulled up their life in the Philippines 20, maybe 30 years ago, gone to America, went through the process, and were now working, just like you and me, towards their retirement goals. Some had bought houses, they'd raised kids, they had gone through the whole enchilada. But the one thing that we all had in common was we were all planning to retire back in the Philippines. And they would ask me, I would know that they were Filipino, obviously just by looking and talking to them. And somewhere along the line during our conversation, I would say, you know what? You're Filipino, right? And you go, oh yeah, yeah. What do you do? I'm a nurse and I'm an engineer and we work over here. We've got two kids and they go to school and the usual stuff. And I'd say, well, you know what? I'm a year away from retiring and I'm going to retire in the Philippines. And boy, would they sit up and pay attention. And were they all three, there's three different couples, they all kind of had the same reaction. They would say, are you really? And the men would ask the same questions, and the women would ask the same questions. So I'll sum it up with one. The man would ask, if you don't mind me asking, Paul, but what's your budget going to be when you live over there? And I think at the time my Social Security was somewhere around $1,600 or $1,700. I don't remember. But I would tell him that number. Let's just say it was $1,725. And he would rear back and he would say, oh my God. And she would nod in agreement. He would say, you're going to have more money than you could ever dream of spending. I said, really? He goes, yeah, man, you're going to be in paradise. You're going to live like a king. You're going to have a great looking house or apartment. You're going to have a full-time housekeeper. If you buy a car, you'll have a full-time driver. And this is the one that got me. He'd say, and you can even get yourself a houseboy. And I thought, what the hell's a houseboy? I never had the courage to ask him. I couldn't figure out what that meant. I think we got a housekeeper and a driver. What's this other dude? A butler? I don't know. To this day, I don't know. So anyway, that was his spin on it immediately. And they would ask me, where are you going to live when you go to the Philippines? And after having done all my little research and looking at the maps and all this kind of stuff, the different locations, at the time I had settled on Cebu. And whenever I told them Cebu, they would all kind of draw back a little bit. They would shake their heads and they go, you might want to rethink that. All three couples. And I said, why is that? And their primary objection or insight was safety. They didn't talk about the congestion or the cost of living or any of that kind of stuff. But I think they saw this old guy. At the time, I was 61, going to be 62, um, getting ready to retire. And they actually had some genuine concern about that. And they made it clear. They said, I think you should rethink that. They said, Here's our province. They were always very proud of where they came from. Here's our province. We think you should give that a look or check that out. And at the time, I think I wrote it down. I said, okay, okay. This day, I don't remember what the provinces were. None of them were Dumaguete or Valencia, where I am today. But the women would all have the same reaction also, or the same question. I'm sorry. They would say, are you taking your wife with you? And I told the woman and the guy, I said, well, no, I'm divorced. I'm a single guy. And the women would get just giddy. And coming from this 50, 55-year-old woman to this day, I just get a kick out of it. She would say, you know what, Paul? And she was genuinely excited and happy for me. She said, you are going to meet and you are going to be just inundated with really young, really beautiful Filipinas. And you find yourself a good Filipina, she will take care of you for the rest of your life. So a number of these prophecies that I was told by these Filipinos came true, but to some degree. The first and foremost one was when the woman told me, you're going to meet a younger, beautiful, faithful Filipina. That came true. I've been now with my wife for 7 years. Together 7, married for 3. And every day feels like a holiday with her. Totally different experience than any relationship that I ever dreamed of having in America. But the Philippines itself, as far as a paradise, is my humble opinion, a massive overstatement. Paradise is when you're on vacation and there's no budget restrictions and you're at the resort and you're on the big white sandy beach and you're having a drink with an umbrella in it, on the lounge chair, and your massage is scheduled at 2 o'clock, and then you're going to go to some tutti frutti dinner and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but that could be found anywhere, any resort location on the planet. You can get that experience. Is that day-to-day life out here? Well, for Bully Boy, it certainly isn't. I have a normal routine. It's paradise compared to my existence in America, but is it the ultimate destination? Not for everyone. In fact, many, many people come out here, take a look around, put their toe in the water, and they decide that it really isn't for them. I would be lying if I didn't tell you that the Philippines is filled with challenges. It can at times be frustrating. It can be something that will raise your blood pressure when your intention was to lower it when you came over here. And I think a lot of that is driven by our own personalities and how we react and how we respond to adversity. As far as the whole king thing goes, no, I don't feel like I live like a king. However, I do feel that I have been treated with much more respect. I feel like I've been treated with much more kindness, and especially from my wife. If anybody was to make me feel like a king, it would be her. And she is my queen. And so I think that that's a even exchange there. But no, you're not going to come riding in on your white horse and sweep some girl off your feet and rescue her and run off into the sunset into paradise. That is an oversold notion. I simply want to temper people's expectations. I sort of wish that my expectations had been tempered and tapped down a bit. Um, there's nothing worse than overselling and under delivering. In fact, the opposite, I think, is the best. You need to undersell and over deliver. So just because I've had a little bit of success as far as a relationship and dialing into the culture and accepting the realities of it doesn't mean everyone will. I don't know you, um, so I can't answer that question. I only know me. And the only way that I could communicate it to you is to tell you what happened to me and then just rely on your good judgment to discern what I've said, take it apart, analyze it, and see if it makes sense and if it would be a fit for you. So anyway, kids, paradise, living like a king, it's all a state of mind anyway, isn't it? All right. I hope this video was a little bit entertaining, if nothing else, and a little bit informative. Now, if you think I'm full of shit, feel free to say so in the comment section. Or if you'd like to change it up, go ahead and say something nice. Anyway, I would love to hear from you and see if you have a similar story or circumstance that you can relate to the rest of us in the comment section. All right, boys and girls, we'll see you next time we're here on the tube.